and come to find out it's really a case of autism.
Hi, I'm Dr. Z. I am a naturopathic doctor and biochemist, also diagnosed with autism as level 1 support needs, formerly known as Asperger's. I also have PDA myself.
My name's Shane. I'm a professional musician. I get millions of plays on Spotify. And as part of my job, I pay close attention to social media and hip hop culture, music culture, and all those things. And because of that, I know way too much about Kanye West.
Today, we're going to be talking about an atypical form of autism known as pathological demand avoidance. Talking about Kanye West and his new diagnosis of autism.
We should probably do the disclaimer because I'm about to talk about how Kanye is super autistic and I'm not a doctor.
This video is going to be for educational and entertainment purposes. The number one marker of PDA is extreme demand avoidance, which is this intense resistance to what could seem like ordinary requests or expectations, even if the person themselves who has PDA wants to do that task. And that avoidance, it can be subtle. It can be something like distraction, negotiation, delay tactics, or it can be more overt with this like direct refusal or withdrawal and even aggression. And this resistance is a lot of times just often automatic. That's why I call it a brain algorithm, because it's not oppositional or defiance in the intention of that behavior itself. Pathological demand avoidance is considered an atypical profile within the autism spectrum as it stands currently. They are doing more research on PDA and seeing if it is something that you can have outside of autism, but currently it is an atypical profile within the autism spectrum. And it's due to having an anxiety-based need for control and autonomy. Those are the two brain algorithms, we'll call it, that are part of having PDA.
As soon as I thought about Kanye having autism and potentially having PDA, I thought about this moment from, I forget what year, he crashed out at TMZ, he said slavery was a choice, he was wearing the MAGA hat, he was doing all these things, and I thought about this exact moment, which is the perfect framework for understanding everything about Kanye having PDA moving forward.
I felt a freedom in, first of all, just doing something that everybody tells you not to do.
Outright saying, I feel freedom when I do things that people tell me not to do. And he talks about that in the context of wearing the MAGA hat.
Backstage, they said, don't go out there with that hat on. They bullied me backstage. They bullied me.
When people said, because I was black, I wasn't supposed to wear it, and then I just wanted to wear it, supporting Republican.
My father's a Black Panther. My mother got arrested for the sit-ins at age 6. They were fighting for us to have the right to our opinion, not the right to vote for whoever the white liberals said black people are supposed to vote for.
I know there's a lot of other crazier modern things. He's obviously had a lot of people tell him, you can't do that. You absolutely cannot support those things that I don't want to say in a YouTube video.
I said, okay, so last year y'all tried to tell me who I'm supposed to vote for because I'm black. Now this year, white liberals trying to tell me who I'm supposed to vote for because I'm Christian. It's just all based on y'all vision of what I'm supposed to do. We are in a country where we allowed to like whatever we like.
One thing to note also is that there is racism in these psychiatric disorder diagnosing processes as well. You can actually see the research that shows that if you are black or brown with the same behavior, same demographics, even if you have the same trauma as measured by adverse childhood events, you as a black or brown person are up to 5 times more likely to be misdiagnosed as bipolar, as schizophrenic, as having a conduct disorder like oppositional defiance. These misdiagnoses are very common in general for people who have autism and or ADHD, but they are extremely prevalent for people of culture. As a person with PDA, I find a lot of similarities to Kanye West's behavior patterns and his responses and the rationales he describes in his interviews, in his music. They make sense to me as a PDA person.
In a way, I feel like he's reverse engineered this philosophy out of his PDA, saying I should be able to like whatever I like, when sometimes he might not be liking the things he likes because he actually likes them. He might just have PDA and have so many people telling him, don't do that, you're not allowed to do that, Kanye. And then eventually it almost gets to a point where, to avoid self-harm, he needs to do the thing that he's told he can't do.
Yeah. That is really represented well when he wears a shirt that says White Lives Matter, because it's obvious that there was a big social dynamic pressure of Black Lives Matter as a movement, and rightfully so. But to a person with PDA, again, you're going to experience that as a demand and a loss of autonomy over how you can express yourself. So a person with PDA is going to generally do the opposite again.
Perhaps in an act of defiance, Kanye was seen last night in LA wearing that shirt again.
I had someone call me last night and said anybody wearing a White Lives Matter shirt is going to be greenlit, and that means that they're going to beat them up if they wear it. And I'm like, okay, green light me then.
Every time he's been told you cannot do that, he can't help it. This wiring, this PDA wiring, takes him to that place. And we also see this in Kanye West's music, where he is well known as being someone who's not afraid to totally switch it up and has completely reinvented the hip-hop genre many, many times. But in recent interviews, he has even said that a lot of this was just due to the expectations placed on him by broader audiences in this clip.
And autism takes you to a Rain Man thing where you're like, oh man, I'm gonna wear this Trump hat because I just like Trump in general.
Yeah.
And then when people tell you to not do it, you just get on that one point. And that's my problem when fans tell me to do my album a certain way. Yeah. I'll do it the opposite way.
And another trait for a person with PDA is the need for control. That is subsequent to the desire of the brain algorithm for autonomy and equality.
You can't leave Adidas. Why would you leave all that money? The constant feeling of not being in control spun me out of control.
This is like a strong desire to maintain control over your environment, over the activities you do, over any interactions really. It can become really distressed and panicked when that control is lost, or even if you have like the perception of that loss, even if you're just perceiving that demand being imposed on you.
That made me think of the song Old Kanye, which is basically an interlude off of The Life of Pablo. And it's super short, so I just want to share some lyrics. I miss the old Kanye, straight from the go Kanye, chop up the soul Kanye, set on his goals Kanye, in reference to Kanye switching up his genres. He was known through producing for Jay-Z and producing with Pharrell Williams and many other massive, massive hits of the late 90s, early 2000s with his chopping up soul beats sound. Especially now, he's largely gone away from that. And what you had said about the feeling of pressure, even just Kanye having the whole world love his style and his sound and saying, wow, Kanye, what you're doing is so great. We want you to keep doing it because we love it so much. In those statements, he will be perceiving the demand placed on him. And so it would be very hard for him to continue doing that and not go do something else. Even though his sound of music has changed, he is completely just being himself. And when you understand that he is operating with the wiring of PDA, it's true. He's just being himself. And part of being himself is changing what he's doing when people place a demand on him.
And it's like I used to have to sneak to the studio because people so much didn't believe in me as a rapper that when I tell people, oh yeah, I'm just working on my stuff right now, they'll laugh or be like, oh man, come on man, just work on my stuff. Do something that's gonna work.
People with PDA use social strategies to avoid demands. So inherently, people with PDA autism are more social than people who have autism without PDA. And that's why the PDA kind of hides the autism and why misdiagnosis happens even more so in these situations. And social strategies, what I mean by that is usually like very socially skilled behaviors. And that could be charm, humor, excuses, distraction, to just avoid doing what's being asked. And you can appear very socially confident, but that underlying anxiety still continues to drive the interaction.
So there are tons of ways that that applies to Kanye West, but for the sake of lightheartedness and using viral clips that I haven't stored in my memory bank, I want to talk about humor, because Kanye West has been very funny over the years. And this clip right here is a perfect example of Kanye using his social charm as a way to avoid a demand. And there's lots of funny clips about Kanye sort of making fun of himself for never smiling.
Yeah, name 3 things you do when no one is looking.
Smile.
We're seeing now that Kanye doesn't smile a lot of the time because of the demand placed on him to smile. And that's what happens in this clip.
Kanye, you're back after 6 years. Are you happy to be back and performing tonight? Much anticipated performance with Paul McCartney and Rihanna.
I'm just extremely happy. Can you tell by my face?
In that situation, the neurotypical masked up response would be, yeah, I'm so happy to be back here and it's an honor to be performing with legends like Paul McCartney, or some crap like that. And Kanye does not want to follow the script. It hurts him internally because of his PDA wiring. And so rather than just having a meltdown or going silent or having another less social response, he uses his humor, a little bit of sarcasm in order to do what he wants, but cover it up.
What he's actually doing in so many of these situations is protecting his own body's sensitive needs to not feel the pain that comes with the demand. It actually feels like a physical pain on your body when you perceive demand or that loss of autonomy. So creating strategic social responses are not about manipulating the external world. It's more about your own relationship to yourself and helping you not feel the pain within your own body. It can look like it's bipolar, right? It can look like it's narcissism. It can look like so many other psychiatric disorders that seem like it's a choice, but actually it's not a choice when you have this brain algorithm. And another trait of PDA is actually rapid mood changes. And this is referring to like intense emotional shifts that are in response to that perceived pressure or that perceived expectation or that perceived feeling of control. You feel like you're getting boxed into that script, right? That can appear then as like a sudden anger or a sudden withdrawal or sudden laughter even, or sudden shutdown. The nervous system actually reacts really quickly to that threat. You literally feel like you're about to get killed to some degree. It literally feels like your fight or flight is activated, like a lion is chasing you or something in that split-second moment.
And people who have followed Kanye West's career know that one of the things he cares most about and has made him the most emotionally unstable at times is his relationship with his wife and his divorce and everything around his family.
Remind me of when I first got with my wife, and people was like bringing up other women's name in the interview, and they was trying to diss my wife. And you're gonna see some documentation. I'm spazzing on people. Right, this is one of the most beautiful people ever lived. Right.
Kanye might have had a rapid mood change that could very easily look like bipolar disorder to someone who doesn't know about these things.
Yeah, with bipolar disorder, there's more of a cyclical nervous system reaction, whereas with PDA, it's any day. The nervous system reacting very quickly to perceived threat and that loss of autonomy. Another trait of PDA actually is using your imagination, creating different personas or fantasy roles as a coping strategy to manage that anxiety and need for control. This can look like mimicking authority figures. You can create alternative identities, alternative storylines that will help you feel in control of social dynamics.
For a while, and he was doing a lot more of literal masking by wearing balaclavas and face masks and hoods and things, and he wanted to be called Ye. And Kanye West was dead, and he was Ye now. There are examples of him creating personas that he lived for different albums. For example, in 808s and Heartbreaks, he was wearing a lot of like blazers with the shutter shade eyeglasses. Even when he first came out and he was all about, I want to wear like skinny jeans and the pink polos, and I want to have this style that is not embraced in black hip hop culture right now.
The most racist thing a person could tell me is that I'm supposed to choose something based on my race. If that was the case, I wouldn't have never wore a pink polo. I wouldn't have never wear skinny jeans. Everywhere I go, people pants smaller than mine.
When you are a certain race, you do get boxed in, and again, that box is a structure of demand. The response to that demand gets misinterpreted into things like being manipulative or having some sort of underlying motivation that could be self-serving, but actually it's a form of self-protection from that demand and the anxiety that comes from that demand. And he speaks a little bit more about this duality of an experience in this little clip here.
Y'all got to think, man, black people are like the housekeepers of America. You know what I'm saying? They got a certain volume. They supposed to talk in the house. We got a certain volume. We supposed to talk in America. So what do you think if a housekeeper is screaming in my house? What do you think the other housekeeper going to tell them?
Be quiet.
Be quiet, yay.
Mm-hmm.
Be quiet, yay.
Mm-hmm. Don't disrupt the house.
Don't disrupt America, yay. We orphans out here, but don't disrupt.
And this also is an example of tone policing, which people on the spectrum experience because we don't hear tone the same way as other people may, who don't have an auditory processing difference, and as well as someone who is a person of culture, they are also going to experience tone policing. And the well-known stereotype that is used to really understand an example of tone policing is when a Black woman is expressing an emotion and is justified in her emotion, the response, it will be instead towards the way she has said it, while simultaneously trying to diminish what she has said by calling her aggressive.
We're not even speaking in our own language, bro. Like, we talk louder than this. Africans talk loud. Italian moms talk loud. We talk louder, but we speak in our corporate voice, or we don't want to ruin the deal voice.
Another trait of PDA is surface level socialization to some degree, and that is also due to the autism. Reciprocation and socializing is a difficulty.
And in terms of Kanye West exhibiting this surface sociability, I think that a broad example that has applied basically across time is how Kanye loves to go on rants.
Guest Kanye West is getting a vote of support from President Trump after his jaw-dropping rant.
Kanye seems very confident and outgoing when he's going on a rant to people. And sometimes when it comes to a back and forth dialogue, he doesn't really excel in those situations.
You so famously and so powerfully said George Bush doesn't care about black people. It makes me wonder what makes you think that Donald Trump does, or any people at all. Why don't we take a break? We'll come back, and Kanye West is here. His album's called Yo.
You want me to repeat?
No.
Well, why don't we do this? Let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hear Kanye's answer.
We're not going to Jimmy Kimmel the situation.
No, we're going to come right back.
No, we're not going to come right back.
Okay.
We're not going to Jimmy Kimmel the situation.
Fair enough.
We're going to give me time to think.
Okay. Fair enough.
You asked me a serious question, and I'm going to take some time to think about my answer. I'm going to use time to my advantage.
And people have often interpreted that as just a hyper-inflated ego and narcissism or something like that, when in reality, Kanye might just be communicating in the way that he knows how.
A better way to understand this type of communication is when an autistic person is monologuing about something that they have deep interest in. Another way of describing that behavior is also called info dumping, is where you just dump a lot of information, and it's actually a form of communication for people on the spectrum that is actually with the intention of trying to connect. But when you are not looking at it through the lens of a different neurological wiring and are only judging that through the lens of neuronormative standards, then it can look like they are ranting at you or that they are making it about themselves, when actually it's a bid for connection, a desire to relate to the person that they are info dumping to. I thought this was a good clip to share because people with narcissism generally have no ability to self-reflect.
I got lost. I got caught up in my own ego, my own strategy, my own ideas. I tried to hold everything in my own brain.
The way he speaks, a lot of times he's not having eye contact when he's info dumping about his special interest and about the information he knows.
And autistic people especially high masking autistic people, commonly have to deal with being called the narcissist for the reasons we talked about, and that there are certain signs in Kanye's behavior that indicate he's probably not an actual narcissist, that he's more autistic.
Right. Yep. And I think it's important that we give back that autonomy to the individual with their relationship to their own doctor, to their own medical team. If you have any experience with the PDA person, you will know that there is a preference for collaborative approaches rather than that imposed structure onto them.
We have a whole team at Yeezy Sound that will help come and do the drums, help with lyrics, help with choruses, and I'd give like 6-7 people ideas that I want on the song, and I just go to sleep and just wait for them to...
And Kanye has been criticized sometimes for this method of creating, and he's even compared himself to people who have received similar criticism, like Steve Jobs. People who followed Kanye for a while know he's sort of obsessed with comparing himself to Steve Jobs, and one of the things that Steve Jobs gets criticized most for is just being an idea guy and then hiring a bunch of skilled people in order to do the actual work for him. The reality is that that might be just one of Kanye's ways of accommodating his own neurotype. He wants to collaborate. He has big ideas. His brain's moving fast, and he wants to work together with people. He wants to be able to do his favorite part, which is creating ideas, and then hire people or have people that do the other parts for him.
They can't tell me nothing. They can't tell me nothing. They can't tell me nothing.
Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Accept and receive eternal life.
They can't tell me nothing. They can't tell me nothing.
For people who have PDA or families where you have a child that has PDA, a great way to really put this all together is Kanye West is a person with PDA who has money. Yeah.
What would someone with PDA do if they could get what they wanted all the time?
All the time, right? Yeah. And then can use having money as the rationale for being able to do the thing or cover up the criticism that comes from his autonomy, essentially. And that also relates to another trait of PDA, which involves masking and camouflaging. And this is where you have high awareness of social expectations. Mm-hmm. And you may actually overcompensate due to that script, and you then start to perform the appropriate role. That actually can lead to exhaustion, to shutdowns, meltdowns. He has used the amount of money he has as a form of masking, as a form of self-protection, as a form of deflecting the criticism that he gets for his self-preservation needs as a PDA person.
I done been through too much. I'm the founder of a $3 billion company. You think I'm finna listen to somebody online tell me who I'm supposed to apologize for?
Some of the ways that Kanye West has done this is by saying, I'm too rich to take these broke people's advice, and I'm too successful / musically a genius to take these other people's advice when I am a genius.
I don't take advice from people less successful than me, huh?
But if you look back at Kanye at the start of his career is when he releases the song Can't Tell Me Nothing.
When fans tell me to do my album a certain way, I'll do it the opposite way just because la 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 I got my money, right?
Yeah. What he presents as confidence from the very beginning, from well before he was famous. He's always been this person, and now that he is successful and proven himself, he can say, I'm too rich to listen to people's advice, or I'm too successful to listen to people's advice. But Kanye has never been listening to people's advice, ever, in his whole life.
And I remember saying, breathe in this moment, because this will be the last moment that I can walk around in public, because I had written the line, she got a light-skinned friend look like Michael Jackson, got a dark-skinned friend look like Michael Jackson, and I knew after that I wouldn't be able to walk the streets for the rest of my life.
Seriously?
Yes.
You were that confident in the success of your record?
And the success of that line. I was like, I will be famous after this line.
And so you can see how these are retroactive filters or masks that he applies as a way to justify his behavior, when in reality, it's just his neurotype.
And this is a perfect example of overcompensation. A lot of PDA people will actually become highly successful in order to maintain agency over themselves and have that autonomy over themselves.
In general, I feel like there's a lot for everyone to learn and understand about this kind of autistic PDA individual because, like you said, there's a lot of very, very successful people with this neurotype. And a lot of it is because not necessarily that the neurotype lends itself to success, but that in order to accommodate their needs and put themselves in a position where they can feel like they can be themselves, they need to be highly successful. And people with this neurotype that don't succeed, a lot of times I think they can end up being like very bitter, homeless, blaming the world and saying that like there's something wrong with the whole world. Again, this is just like
heavily
purely
misunderstood, very misunderstood.
And so this type of people and the different ways that this neurotype can express itself is something that we know very little about, and say they're a narcissist or they've got ego issues or whatever it might be.
Or they just don't want to take their medicines. I've been seeing so many people commenting about people thinking that all of this is just for him to avoid taking pharmaceutical drugs.
I'd rather be dead than to be on medication.
When you understand PDA, you will actually understand how he experiences that demand as well, which is the exact same way he feels about any demand. It actually feels like a physical pain on your body. Fight or flight is activated like a lion is chasing you or something in that split-second moment.
There was a super viral clip of Kanye West.
I'm not going to say what race, what people, doctor. It was a Jewish doctor.
But after that clip cuts off and everyone stops laughing, there's something that he says about his reluctance to take medication due to being misdiagnosed.
That diagnosed me of having a disorder that would have had me on medication right now. If I was on medication, one pill could have been swapped out and it would be Michael Jackson and Prince all over again.
So again, this is an example of how he's doing things to self-preserve and not experiencing the damaging effects of having other people's demands placed on him as a PDA person. A lot of people with BPD don't have this same reaction to what is perceived help, right? This isn't perceived that way because it's a demand, again. And this is another example of when you are from a black or brown background, these behaviors are viewed through the lens of racism when it's viewed as defiance, whereas white counterparts are viewed as having a developmental disorder. So one creates punitive measures where people are trying to inflict punishment because they believe it's a choice and they believe it's a behavioral issue. And the other is a complete different reaction where they believe this person needs support and environmental changes through sensory needs and so on and so forth. It's so important to understand the inherent racism that may be presenting itself when we talk about Kanye West and his mental health and how we are not as forgiving or supporting in his particular set of needs. When we can rewind and understand it from that perspective, it becomes a lot more obvious what's happening. And we start to actually be in a position where we can believe what this man is saying about himself in his own agency, his own medical sovereignty, which he absolutely should have, instead of projecting what the current industry of psychiatry does, which is perpetuate further racism in the diagnostic procedures itself. Another trait to understand for the PDA autistic profile is an obsessive focus on people that also causes misdiagnoses and missing autism entirely. For a person with just autism, there may be more of a intense focus on objects. For the PDA profile of autism, there's more of an obsession with certain people. This can look like fixating on people or fixating on certain relationships and a control of those interactions or an accessibility as well to those interactions.
The media ridiculed me for getting the house next door to Kim to see my children. And they even said that I was stalking her and her new boyfriend because I bought the house next door to see my children.
When you understand, again, from this awareness of PDA, you're not going to look at him wanting to live next to his children as like stalking. If this was a white man just getting a house next to his own children, I think majority of people would be like, wow, what a good father. You know, he wants to maintain a relationship with his children. But because Kanye West presents as the person that he is, with all the information we've just shared on how unconscious biases perpetuate racism, we criticize him wanting to live next to his children to maintain a relationship with his children. That level of obsession is not only due to fatherhood, but also a behavioral trait that is a part of being a PDA autistic profile as well. I hope that you all can appreciate this expansion on what having the PDA profile of autism can look like, whether that's going to help you in your own life, your own families, your own children, as well as maybe taking some additional steps in your perception of these celebrities or online personas, and helping to have the education and awareness to better dissect apart from behavioral patterns that we are exposed to, and having that genuine curiosity and not reverting to criticism immediately, growing in our compassion, not just towards celebrities, but towards our own communities of people. PDA is highly masked. It's actually much more common than we realize, but we haven't had the education to be aware of these specific neurological patterns of behavior. I know for us, by understanding this, we have healed our own relationships within our own families extensively. You start to see this in people all around you, actually, and once you understand the brain wiring and just the brain algorithms of this instinctual need for equality and autonomy, you can then start to actually support that person and help people regulate their own emotions in general, decrease that demand, decrease that threat response, decrease that fight or flight, and then you really get to see the beautiful, incredible human that's beneath that response, that is just tucked away. It's just stuffed inside of us, waiting to be seen, to be heard, to be understood. And when our behavioral reactions like this are the only thing that people see, then it makes you want to give up. It makes you want to crash out even more. Actually, it's like, oh, well, you already think I'm an awful person, so I might as well be an awful person.
How do you get from there to here? What changes, or what do you then realize?
I'm evil. No white people, no black people, nobody could tell me what to say, think, talk, or who the fuck be.
It actually perpetuates the harm, both for that person towards themselves, as well as that person harming everyone else. So having this awareness is going to create the healing we actually need in society. Having this education is actually going to help heal our relationships with our parents, with our siblings, with our communities at large. I really appreciate anyone who watched it this far to get that awareness and to get this education of how we have different brain algorithms that aren't fully based on intent, that are actually just instantaneous nervous system based responses, so that we can actually get the help that we need to regulate that inherent nervous system response, and not through numbing it, redirecting it, not through deflecting it, but actually seeing the person and accepting them, humanizing before we pathologize the person, to create that compassion that ultimately is going to create the healing that we all need. Thank you.
I'm not gonna tell y'all what y'all should do. I'm just doing what I do. If you love it, then cool. I appreciate all the dynamics that humanity has to present, because it allows me to be the only kid in the pink polo.